All right, we're
Good
live.
morning.
Morning again.
Welcome to the show. It is a day of technical difficulties and fun times, so the show is not where you expected it to be, but we are here, we are live, and it is time to learn about all the awesome things. So let's do a round of introductions first, and either one of you can go first. So who are you, a little bit about your project, and something we don't already know about you.
Um, hmm. Okay, so well, I'm Trekk with 2Ks, and what do you not know about me? Well, let me jump back. I am Trekk with 2Ks. At this point, I will say I am a content contributor that provides a certain level of qualitative observation of the space. I'm on 3 different YouTube channels right now: The Gentleman of Crypto, CBTV, and Simple Crypto, and yeah, I'm there doing that. Some point, I'm gonna make my own channel, and X number of years ago, at this point, I met 3D. I don't remember how, but ever since then, we've been rocking, and it has been a very interesting and learnedful. I don't know if that's a word. Journey in like cypherpunkism, decentralization, this whole crypto thing, um, and working to like build community and rapport. Uh, Something that people don't know about me is, huh, I have a degree in fashion design.
That's impressive. I
That is
would
what's
not
up.
have
I did
expected that.
not know that.
Yeah.
Uh, so I'm 3D. I been doing lots of things. I don't know. I do just a little bit of everything within like hashing technicals and metaversal spaces and stuff. Something people don't know about me is I went to college for video game design, but never finished.
Still makes dope ass games though.
Thanks, Joe.
That's pretty fun. Um, I'm Jen, and something that you don't know about me is there's so much that everybody already knows. I guess something that you don't know that you're discovering today is that I have an office in an unfinished basement that's over 100 years old. It is not the prettiest, got all the technical difficulties, so there's no fancy green screen today. It's just 100% old basement. But that's okay because you're not here for my old basement. You're here to hear what these two have to say about things. So, tell me a bit. You have the metaverse realty webinar going on at I believe, the end of the month here. So tell me a bit about that.
You start that off, pretty.
Um, yeah, it's like so. I had wrote up like a big long page thing on how you can use the metaverse as realty, like as in using like real world realty ideals and spectrum in the metaverse. And I had was talking to Trek about it, and he just kind of was like, well, what would you want to do this? I was wanting to do a seminar, but I didn't have any way of like accepting fiat or doing the things, and so he helped me out, and so together like we built up the seminar. It's more now than just using real realty stuff. It's also like how to monetize your digital space, and since then we've even expanded the concept even further, and so now we're able to do a series of seminars on um, uh, Eventbrite and stuff like that to basically help people who either haven't been in to the metaverse get in, and people who are in the metaverse how to take better advantage of their space.
That
Okay, so
sounds pretty awesome.
yeah.
Just you first.
No, I was gonna say yeah. 3D definitely had the technical know-how, and it's been an interesting process in figuring out how to get that technical know-how. It How to say this, like how to get it out there where others can also, I would argue as myself, be in ooh and ah of like his technical know-how, his technical astuteness. And so I'm trying to just do my part in helping build something.
I like that. So can anybody come to this webinar, or is it geared toward a specific set of people? Like if I have, say, what I've run into the most in my own life recently would be seniors who have lots of questions about the metaverse, but really don't quite understand what it is. Would this be a good thing for them to attend to learn some stuff, or is it geared to somebody with a bit more metaverse knowledge already, or?
So the whole thing about this is our premise goes off of Web3 is going to be for people who are not coders. And then the second thing is metaverses are non-crypto and crypto related. And with that, with this thing being more about like on the crypto side, at least like monetization and like chasing the bag, it's like, listen, most of you will end up losing money trying to be a trader in the metaverse space. And most of you, the vast majority of you, will not take what it needs to learn to actually effectively be a coder. And so with those two things in mind, it's like, well, here's these other options of where you don't have to be a coder. It's not going to cost you a buttload of money. It will cost you some time because it does take time to learn the differences between the metaverses, the ecosystems, and what systems you can put in place as far as like a product or a service to if you're how do I say this? We can't guarantee you're going to make money, right? But we can at least give you the tool set, and as long as you have the wherewithal and the fortitude to actually go through trial and error while failing forward, which I say to 3D all the time, right? You will at some point find your niche, find your where it hits for you. And this is all open source tech. That's the greater part of it, at least to me.
I like that. So if I'm involved in the metaverse and I have some knowledge, would I be getting something out of this webinar as well? Like if I showed up, is there something there that it would, I'm assuming there'd be lots there that I would learn.
Okay, so I'm not as in-depth as knowing you as 3D is, but because you are already in like the uplift space and stuff, I would argue the basics of what we're covering on this first go around may not be the new stuff to you, but I think that a part of the networking thing and getting people who aren't familiar with uplift, who aren't familiar with Minecraft, as well as like we did a Twitter space on Sunday, and we're doing a Twitter space every Sunday until until August 31st, which is the actual webinar event for digital realty. And just in conversation, we came out with a bunch of different ideas that we didn't even necessarily think about, as far as like, hey, we like 3D and another person who was in the Twitter space, out of conversation, they came up with, hey, we can make a site that has open source tools for people who are interested in learning how to manipulate these metaverse spaces, and non-coder level tools, open source stuff. Now, for all of our conversations, we didn't even think of that until we had the Sunday Twitter live, the spaces. And that was just off of a couple people coming on, they joined in, and then we just started talking about digital realty and what it is in a bigger sense, as far as like in the metaverse. Most people, when they think digital realty, make it the connection of like real world realty, where it's about an XYZ access. But like in the digital space, it's an X and Y access. In the metaverse, it's an XYZ access, right? And so that, as far as like different things that you could come up with that may be monetizable, that's a whole different level of open out the conversation. But we didn't like get to that until we started talking with other people. So I think the network and the community stuff would be the thing.
Yeah, I think definitely. And I can think of a few people I want to send the registration to, because they're looking into wanting to know more. And honestly, I see a need for this too. Just people who have either never heard of the metaverse or don't really understand it. And it is hard to understand because it's all being built as we speak. So it's not like it's the easiest thing to talk about. I guess maybe that's the next question. And 3D, maybe you can start here. What is, and I ask this almost all the time because it keeps changing, what is the metaverse to you?
So like, what is a metaverse? Metaverse is a socially connected game in most cases, but as we've gotten like more into people building different metaverses, it's now becoming like a virtualized space that either can be public, private, or anywhere in between, which there are in between, so public and private, and just allow people to have a space that they can control. So it's that kind of like how like MySpace gave people a web page that they could control. Well, metaverse is an option or opportunity for individuals to have a virtualized space that they can control.
Okay, I like that. And yeah, because that implies too that it's more than just wandering around in a digital space, but being able to manipulate it somehow to do whatever it is you want to do with it. What about you, Trekk? What's the metaverse to you?
Huh. Metaverse is just not just, but it's another area of where you can interact with people. Like, I'm a techie person and futurist in regards to, I get it that technology is not a one stop shop kind of thing. It's a linear thing in development. And with the metaverse stuff, again, one of the things we were talking about was like, how, all right, the movie Ready Player One. There's a thing in the movie, and I can't remember the character's name, but the two main characters, they have a private space within that metaverse, right? And we were talking about it on Sunday, and it's just like, you could do this now in metaverses. And for me, like, in the bigger thing, metaverses like are a place to explore creativity, connection, and like ingenuity. In short.
I like that a lot. So how creative do I have to be? How technically skilled do I have to be involved in the metaverse at this point? Like, is there a fairly wide range, or would you say that a moderate amount of skill or knowledge is needed?
So, all right. And again, like, our premise is coding is always going to end up being a default, right? But since most people aren't going to code, but they still want to be able to build, create, explore, and with the way the technology has developed now, you don't need to code. It's at a point now, depending on the platform you're on, where it's a drag and drop. When I was in ETH Denver, one of the things that I saw going on was the B2B level of white labeling metaverse spaces. Literally, it was a couple of companies in there that were like, yeah, we could spin up a metaverse for you in like an hour or so. And that's at the B2B level, right? Now they have X amount of the more technical, people on their team and stuff, But what I and 3D would go with saying is, going forward, you're going to see the B2C level of this technology proliferate out into the masses, just like how, look at like being a content creator and how many things as far as platforms came out for you to be able to stream on your own, right? Look at how the ICO era went from the 2016 into 2018, where once folks really understood, like, wait, this is just open source code and I can copy and paste it, and you had to have X amount of like technical, astuteness back then. Now you don't need to know nothing to copy and paste. There's websites now where you can just click a few things and you have a functioning smart contract with your own internal currency in it. This is the same thing that we argue is going to start taking place within the metaverses, and it's going to be a whole explosion. I kind of put a caveat on it saying it's going to be an explosion of people going through experimentations for different type of communities, ecosystems, revenue models, and then at a certain point, it's going to consolidate. Just like how the same thing happened in the token and coin space as far as how we see cryptocurrencies now. So no, you don't need the code. But again, you do have to at least spend the time to learn what is going on. So like that is a thing that has to happen. Now, depending on what you're trying to do, it might be a little bit of time or it might be a lot of time, but it's going to cost you.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense to me. And I have noticed a huge difference between, say, doing anything internet based in the 90s and now. It's come leaps and bounds for sure. Um, how what are some less conventional uses of a smart contract in the metaverse?
Less conventional?
Yeah,
Uh,
because when I think smart contract, I usually think it's probably got something to do with the cryptocurrencies and doing something along those lines. What are some slightly less conventional or less obvious ways that a smart contract can be used in the metaverse?
3D, you got this one? Because I got to think about it a little bit more, because you said less conventional.
Yeah, like less obvious ways. Okay, so we did a BuildR DAO where it allows people to, so it's on Wax and it's using a smart contract on Wax. Allows people to submit proposals to have stuff built within any Minecraft space, including Uplift was the main ideal for that. And so the smart contract's not designed for that. So I just went on a web page and hit the GUI buttons and was able to use the smart contract in a less conventional way. And then also using farming contracts, we made up the first Uplift faucet for BuildR DAO tokens, and also being used in a less conventional way, being used as simply as clicking some buttons, buying an NFT, and then burning the NFT on a web page, and then boom, things and magic happened. We even have like a template set up through the smart contract where if someone came to us and said, hey, we want to do a faucet, but we want our image as the faucet logo or whatever for the NFT, we can do that. Like we can use the same template, same order of numbers and stuff with our faucet NFTs, throw theirs in there, and now they can have an X number of these faucet NFTs that they can distribute and stuff like that, and they'll have their image, their stuff on there, but also it will tell people where to go to stake it to claim the faucet funds, and that's a very unconventional way to use these contracts, but it gets the job done. And it was as easy as like I said, just clicking some buttons, and like you could actually build one of these faucets and stuff, not knowing what you're doing.
That has a lot of appeal to me, to be honest. I live by the I don't know what I'm doing motto. The vast majority of what I do is completely new to me, and the less I can screw it up, the better. So I'm excited about that. Tell me a little bit more about the BuildR DAO. How did it get started?
Uh, just like I was complaining about not being able to join the meta builders because they're on Discord, and my Discord has been hacked twice, so I just refused to use it. And then Trekk was saying, well, we should do something, and we were already kind of building. We were already kind of doing it ourselves. Like we already had a thing where we were getting people and we're building for them on their plot. Like I did the BJ token plot and stuff like that, and we're doing one right now for another Spore Baby or whatever. And I found this guy Mike D Crypto on Twitter, and he was talking about this wax style thing, and I did the math and was like, hey, we could start this for $30, you know. And so we started the DAO on $30, and then I burned
Looks like we lost audio there. I can't hear you either. Maybe it's me.
No, it was me. It was me. I had muted
Oh,
the
okay.
mic. So on my side of what was going on was I was at the DeFi Philly event a couple weeks ago, and I was having a conversation with Eric from Chain Bytes. And we were talking about like gaming and metaverse spaces, and I was telling him about uplift and stuff, and we were talking about coding and like basic level stuff. And I was saying to him, like, because again, they're in the whole ATM side of the business, right? And so I'm like, hey, what's funny? Like, no one's doing faucets like that anymore. And then I got into the thing about um faucets in games and faucets in metaverse spaces, and we were hashing that out, kind of talking about we talked about a range of different things. He's a really interesting dude. And then I had another conversation with someone else built on that particular part of it about faucets in games, and someone walked in the room and they were like, hey, well, there's a lot of faucets right now for test nets. And I'm like, yeah, but who wants test nets? Like, this doesn't even really work right now as far as it doesn't translate into a usable currency for people. It's cool for testing, but where's the real world utility side of it? And so I then go to 3D like the next day, because I got home done late next day, and I'm like, yeah, so I had this and this conversation, and I'm telling about all these different conversations, and I'm like, yeah, bro, so like that'd be like, imagine if somebody figured out how to do a faucet in a game, in the metaverse games, or in the metaverse spaces in general, and then as far as the games. And so we're going back and forth in like Vmail stuff. And he was like, I think we could do this. And again, like he found Mike. I forgot what Mike's thing is, but he has, I think Womack or Wojak is his thing that he does on Wax. And basically boils down to, we figured out like cost wise, it wasn't gonna cost us an arm and a leg. And it was like, well, let me go scrounge up some funds together. He did what he needed to do, and I'm like, here. And like 48, no, what is that? Like over like, it spun up itself literally in like 48 hours. But the conversation itself was about a 2-week period. And this is what I'm saying, what really holds and draws me in on this crypto, or at least on decentralized technologies, open source technologies, in that you don't have to be the super coder, but you do have to take the time to figure out how to use these things that are out there, and just be explorative, like, and try to create. If it break, oh well, like figure out what broke and then move on forward. And that's what we did. And it's just like, wow, like we got a DAO. We technically made the first DAO in a metaverse game. Like, we did a builders guild, and it was off of, at least on my side, because again, he was already having these things and concerns and ideas before I said something out loud about it. And it just worked that we came together on this thing. And so now we got the BuildR DAO.
That's fantastic. And so you launched it on Wax. Wax DAOs are relatively new, aren't they?
Yeah. Oh, well, okay. Well, yes, and then like the accessibility part of it. And when I say the accessibility, I'm talking about on like the coder side level of dealing with the smart contracts and how to like to set those up. So it's like the universe aligned up everything to have Mike make the accomplishments that he made in streamlining the process to make smart contracts and deploy them, as well as setting up DAOs and stuff. Now, granted, there's a little bit of, you still have to like do a little bit of reading to make sure you're setting the things up right. But I mean, what he's done, which is going to allow a lot of people to test this out, is a game changer, in my opinion, for the Wax blockchain. And I would argue too that for how Wax, and this is for the price point folks, right? The people who are about like, well, is it up? Is it down? Arguably, and I'm not the first person to say this. Ken said this a while ago. Wax effectively or in effect would work more like a stable coin onto itself because it doesn't have the same volatility as everything else going on, right? And so if you're talking about doing things in relation to like NFTs and then getting in the metaverse and you want a certain a stability of pricing, arguably Wax, it works for that, arguably.
I think it's absolutely fantastic. I mean, I don't claim to know a whole lot about DAOs. I'm part of the Uplift DAO on ETH, and the idea of having a Wax DAO sounds amazing. What would
Go
you
ahead.
say, just for setting it up, what's the number one kind of learning takeaway that you had? What did you learn that you wish you'd known before you set it up?
I don't know. 3D, I gotta think about that one because 3D did more of the heavy lifting.
It was cutting up on me. Can you repeat the question?
Just for setting up
Like I just heard on the DAO side.
setting up the Wax DAO. What was the number one takeaway in terms of something you wish you'd known before you started?
Oh, the number of the NFTs I actually needed. Like, because there's 3 ways to do it on the Wax DAO. There's pay directly with Wax, or pay with Wojak token, or pay with NFTs, and the NFTs was the cheapest way to go. It like cut the price in half. But knowing that I was gonna need like 3 NFTs versus 1 NFT going into it would have been the huge difference, because everything else in there about it was super simple, and like even I had messed something up setting it up, and he was like, "Oh, we'll just," after I contacted Mike, he was like, "Oh, just go to the contract on Wax Blocks and just fix it." And I was like, "Oh, slap!" And so that some stuff can be fixed when you go in versus it's permanent, but some of the stuff in there it is permanent, like the image and some other stuff like that. Um, but it was just like the process for it is so clean and simple that you don't really need to know much of anything going in. Just buy 2 NFTs versus 1, and boom, you're good.
That's really good to know, and it's interesting that there are different ways that it can be paid for and all the rest of it. Yeah. So tell me a little bit more about the BuildR DAO. I've looked through the website, and I admit to giving it a scan instead of a very, very thorough read. But it looks like there are 3 currencies mentioned, and I'm curious a little bit about the structure. It's decentralized. Oh, there's a handy graphic there too. Unfortunately, I can't share my screen on the mobile here, but if either of you wanted to share the website, they'd be absolutely welcome to. Um, how does the structure kind of work?
I'm trying to get to the site. 3D, if you could do
Yeah.
that.
So more about the builder. Like we hosted the site on IPFS, which I know it's a little bit slow, but it's 100% worth it. And then the ideal behind Builder DAO is that there's going to be 3 DAOs in all when we get done. The Builder DAO itself is to help the people, the clients and the builders connect. You can make payments through it, like you can pay your builders through it. Um, you put in a proposal to say, hey, I want something built on this plot, da 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 da. And then if that proposal gets accepted, which it doesn't take much to get accepted, like one person in the DAO could actually accept, say I want to accept this and it be in, and then builders put in, uh, basically for assignment, and it's the same thing. It gets accepted, which one or more of them gets accepted, and then the
I think we lost him on that one.
Yeah, it looks like it there. Um, okay. I'm still taking a look here at the website. I like it very
people
much. I
to
like the
like
explanations. Go ahead.
uh, it will allow people to contact each other and do various things amongst them from member to member. And then the board DAO will allow people to add adjustments to the builder DAO, will allow them to change the builder DAO in the future. So something we decided on was like one DAO shouldn't be able to change itself. You need another DAO to change it. So all 3 of them work together in order to maintain. So that way, like if you have enough tokens on just one DAO, you couldn't disrupt that one DAO. You could only disrupt another DAO, and it would take a lot longer to try to take full control or anything like that. Um, and at the moment, like you could say, yeah, sure, it's somewhat centralized, as in um, like who owns the property running the DAO for the inside uplift, or who actually is running the contract. But we're actually in the process of figuring out how to turn the wallet into a multi-sig wallet, so that way we could like start opening up to more members and more people. That way, everyone would have abilities and to have some kind of control within the actual builder DAO itself.
All right, quick question. Can you see the screen of the DAO site?
I can't, but mobile's weird, so
3D, can you see it?
You might have to sit there and wait for it to load because it's IPFS.
No,
Um,
the page is already loaded. It's I'm trying to do the share.
when you do the
oh,
share,
you're
then
trying
you
to
usually
share
have to
on
add it to
here.
the stream as well here.
Got you. So it's gonna be 4 slides. Okay, got you. Got you. Where'd you go? Where'd you go?
Usually it shows up as an additional speaker window.
That's what I'm seeing on my side.
Yeah, and then there should be an add to stream. Yeah,
Okay.
there we go. Awesome. Yeah, this makes me happy because there's a lot of reading, and I like a lot of reading, and I like graphics and things. So that all about this just makes me happy. You mentioned though about being able to set up the wallet so that it's multi-sig so that more people can do things with it. Is this is a new person question here. Is there a way to set up a multi-sig wallet so that no one person no one person or wallet has overarching and necessary control, but that it can just be set up so that like any 2 or 3 or however many people can sign off on it?
So I'm like, am I understanding that right? Okay, so as far as like the way the regular wallet is set up now, it's just that the one person who has it connected to their main well their wax wallet, that's the person who has the control on it. And so then I'm gonna say the answer is no in regards to how the current wallet structure is. That's why we're looking to get to the multi-sig where you're able to connect in other Wax wallet addresses. And then on that note, the other thing is I look for odd numbers as far as like when it comes to that whole voting governance stuff, because when you do even number stuff, you usually, especially once people like figure out ways to game interest of others, like then it gets funky. So I'm on how I look at it, shooting for odd number. But to your original question, no, for the way it's currently set up now, but we're working to get that feature of being able to add in the others.
Yeah, just in wallets on Wax, there supposedly is a way to do multi-sig functionality to where multiple other wallets can actually have control of a single wallet. So it would be like once we, because like even on Wax blocks, you have the ability to activate multi-signature setup, and so we're just trying to figure out how to go from, because it's not like a Wax Cloud wallet, so we know we have more options and availability and stuff, and rather we have to start like giving out the active key to other players, so then more people can actually sign in and do some actions, and then we have the owner key becoming the actual multi-sig section of the wallet. We haven't quite figured that out, but those are options where we could start like giving everybody who has an X number of tokens an active key to the wallet that they could sign in with Anchor and or Wombat or something like that. And so the options are there. We're still trying to figure that out.
Yeah, I like that. I did look into it, and I'm trying to remember what I saw. I think you can add multiple owner keys, but I haven't tried it yet. I have a test wallet set up for exactly that purpose. So now I think I have some homework. I don't know what I would possibly use it for, but it's fun to wrap my head around it.
Oh,
I have to say too, I like the idea of giving out active keys as opposed to adding someone else's active keys. That seems to be a more secure idea. Do you know how many active keys you can have on a wallet, or would it just be like the same key given out to many people, or how would that all work?
that's a good one. That is a
From
good
my
one.
understanding, that there isn't a limit that I know of yet. Like I have a wallet that has I think 6 active keys in it, all different keys, and I know at any point in time you can close out, cancel active keys, redo active keys. Um, it's the owner key that seems to be more specific on how many you can have, which I think is 3. Um, but yeah, the active key part doesn't seem to have a limitation to it.
So, two things. One, the point that you made about like not being sure what you would do with the DAO function and stuff like that. So, what I forgot to add in earlier is that the initial early conversation was about DAOs and Uplift. Was when I met Corey at the Shitcoin show in Miami, and we were sitting out on the back talking, and he was like, yeah, we're just waiting to see like if somebody makes a DAO, and it'd be interesting if somebody got all of like the plot owners together and they started building on this DAO thing. And I was just like, I don't know, like I don't know what I'll do with a DAO. And lo and behold, X amount of months later, here we are. Like,
Yeah, Corey was really, really excited when he heard about this. So it is exciting.
yeah, so I got to give him the credit because like he planted that initial spark, and I just wasn't ready at the time, and then here we are months later. Like, hey, I'll just thank you, sir. Thank you for having that conversation with me. I appreciate. And what's the other thing that I just wanted to say in relation to? Damn, it's about security. I forgot that part, but I'll remember it in a minute.
All right. So I'm taking a look here at the website again, and I'm looking through. Um, if I want to make a proposal for something, how would I do that? So let's say that I want to find somebody to build something for me. How do I do that? How do I put up a
Um,
request?
well, at the moment we don't have it set up where you can just like go to Alcor and hot swap tokens, because like we're still small, so we're like, you got to get into the faucet, you got to start collecting funds, and then once you have enough builder tokens, you can stake them into the DAO, and then after I think it's like 5 days of staking them, it will actually allow you to put in the proposal. So at the Wax DAO site, where the actual DAO communication layer really is, or even on Wax blocks going through the smart contract directly, you can actually put in a proposal. It'll say proposal, new proposal. You click it, and you put in all your information, and then you pay the RAM to submit it onto chain, and then it appears in the DAO. Also on the contract, smart contract will be saved there, and so that's all it really takes to put in a proposal.
Okay. Yeah, I'm taking a look at that now too, and that's yeah, new to me. All of this is new and it's wonderful. Um, okay. I'm gonna have to take a better look at that just to get some familiarity with it. This is fun.
Yeah.
Um, yeah. So in terms of things that the BuildR DAO can build, are we talking strictly in metaverse builds, or would we be looking at building out things like if somebody said, I want to start a DAO in the metaverse, can you help me with that? Is that something that you'd be building, or is that too far out of scope?
So, okay, there's a caveat to
Well,
that.
when we have like the member DAO, that would be for that. Yeah, keep going, Trekk.
So the caveat as far as like how this BuildR DAO is set up, this is native within the Wax blockchain. As far as metaverse is concerned, this is Uplift, right? So the way that this smart contract and stuff is built out on the back end, it's in relation to Wax and Uplift. Technically speaking, for any of the other smart contract enabled protocols, you can take all of these concepts and do the same thing over there. It's, I mean, it's not that there's a technical barrier for you to be able to do these things over there. It's literally, if it has the smart contract capability, you can work the same concepts. Arguably, you might find it a little bit easier within like the EVM setup. And then I recently heard Polygon Matic, they're doing something that will basically allow you to make your own EVM ecosystems. So again, that white labeling, streamlining the process of how you make these virtual things. It's happening, and it's moving forward a lot faster than I think people realize. And so to your question specifically about like, would we help people build DAOs? Of course. Like, hey, like we want to like experiment as much as possible with any and everybody, and we see where it goes, man. Like we're not saying that we are the rocket scientists, or that we have like the absolute control on this whole thing. We don't. Like, this is the whole thing about being decentralized and open source technology, right? It's open to everybody. That's what we trying to push. Like, come experiment, explore. If you want to build, hey, we could do it this way. If you're interested in Uplift in the Minecraft ecosystem, we already got X amount of the stuff in place. We will admit, we are definitely learning while we move forward. So it's not perfect, but if you want to take the journey, reach out. We here.
I absolutely
Yeah.
love that.
I was gonna say, I think if someone put in a proposal to have a DAO built on like Wax DAO or something in the Builders DAO, if it got accepted, and then someone put in a assignment for it, well, they would be able to have it done.
I really, really like that. And so then, last kind of point here, the BuildR DAO is open to everybody, even build groups, build teams who may already have some sort of a process set up somewhere else.
Yeah, that was something that we talked about earlier on. Like I was like, well, when I was talking about Trekk, I was like, well, if meta builders wanted to get clients through here, like if a client came in and put in a proposal and they were looking at it and they wanted to get it, they could put in, like the meta builders team could put in an assignment to get it, and then they could actually have their members figure out how they're actually going to build it or whatever. We didn't want this just to be for like individuals, but we wanted this to be a spot where individuals or teams could really take action at.
Like, arguably, this can work as a B2B and B2C thing. Arguably, it can work as that. Again, like, it's open source tech. Like, you did the work to get the NFT, to be able to claim the faucet, to be able to get the tokens. As long as, arguably, you're not doing anything that is like working in to be counterintuitive by gaming the system, we don't really got a problem. Like, we want people to come in. If you're a company, if you're a team, if you're an individual, everybody welcome. Just don't do stuff to screw over other people in the community. That's all we ask.
That's all super reasonable. I'm excited to see where this goes and how it goes, and to get involved in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, I'm very curious. And so, when, well, yeah, when, I guess, if I were to get some tokens, stake some token, when can I expect to start the process? Is it pretty much ready to go, or is there still some dev work needed?
I still need to like set up the drops. People could just buy the faucet NFT themselves, but once you have an NFT and you're staked it, it takes a few months to actually build up the token. So you kind of have to put in some time in order to be able to put in proposals.
Again, like I said, it's gonna require time, right? It's not rocket science, right? But also, like, it works as a twofold thing. One, it throttles the ability of people to just come and throw in bots, right? It throttles the ability of people to like, we at this point, we all know that there is a level of outsourcing that happens within metaverse spaces to like gamify the monetary system, right? And at this point, for how we have it set up right now, that also throttles that. Like, you don't just jump in and then in 5 minutes you're able to just start running rampant. Like, no, there's a time commitment that, all right, you get in X amount of weeks to months later, okay, now you get a certain level of access. And for the folks who are serious enough about it, they're going to put the time in. For the folks who don't, it's okay. We understand. If you were looking to do shenanigans, we appreciate that you didn't put the time in. But if you are serious about it, we look forward to being able to build something with you.
I absolutely love it. So I will share the website. I did already on the Twitter, and I will share it some more because this is worth knowing about. Um, I'm guessing that the answer is go for it. But if we were to do something on, I don't know, the Uplift website or some other website, or anybody else out there who's like, hey, this is really cool, it's okay to link to your website, right?
Absolutely.
100%, 100%, 100%.
Cool.
Just
Excellent.
remember, if you're new to the whole IPFS stuff and like using more open source decentralized stuff, it loads a little slow, but it's there. We
I find that interesting because it loaded lightning fast for me.
okay. I
Yeah,
guess it
it
might
does for me too. But I also run like an IPFS node, and it depends like how far someone is away from an IPFS node, and then if the IPFS node has the content pinned, not just the CID pin. So like the more people that want this to be faster, they just have to load it into their
yeah.
IPFS node. Like there's a feature in there where you can pull it in the actual website data, the file, and then having it pinned. And the more that does that, the faster it becomes.
Cool.
Which is the
I
basics
just
of
learned a
IP.
thing.
Right.
That is neat. And in terms of, I always have so many questions. Is it what is the technical difference for building an IPFS website versus any other kind of website?
You
Um,
can't.
it's probably the distribution model.
Okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense.
So if anybody's listening to this later on, this is like, what does that mean? Traditional setup is your website is in a single server, so in a silo kind of thing. So let's say, for example, you are using IPFS. If you don't pay your bill, IPFS turns off your service. No one has access to your website. Same thing works on the side, on the domain side of it. Is like whatever the at part is. You don't pay the hosting site that hosts your domain. Guess what? No one has access to your website. Within this setup for IPFS, it doesn't follow that model of being able to store the domain as well as the data connected to it. It is more distributed and open for anyone who, as 3D mentioned before, has the server nodes, and the content making up your website is across not everyone, but the more people who store the specific stuff that goes into it, the harder it is to be able to try to block, cut off, or shut off, or throttle people accessing your site, because basically it's not in a one single place, it's across the internet.
I really like that for many, many reasons, but I like that a lot.
Yeah. No, we really do try to incorporate where we can and when we can technology that is more rooted in decentralization versus centralization. And it's not to say that there aren't things that work better, quote, because of centralized technologies or services. But if we're talking about this proliferation of decentralization and people having the ability to have access to stuff when they want it, it only makes sense that you try to lean more heavy on these open source technologies. And over time, they do get better. Like how IPFS works now compared to how it worked like 5 years ago, it's a little bit of a difference. It's a lot more user friendly. Just, and that's just one of the technologies out there. So
Yeah, I believe that completely. It all seems to get more user friendly all the time, which is great. Um, I think I've had all of my questions answered at the moment. I'm sure I'll have 10 more in half an hour here. But is there anything else that either of you would like to add before we say see you later?
you gonna go 3D?
I'm sorry, it had cut off on me. I just came back in.
Is there anything else that you want to add before we all say see you later?
Oh, like, yeah, I know we're new in this concept, and we have more planned for it. I just hope that anybody who finds the ideal of being able to like put in work orders and put in assignments in a decentralized manner, get involved or reach out to us, because like if we can make this model work, if we can say, hey, this does work, you no longer have to go through like a completely centralized entity in order to put in a work order to get something done somewhere, then I hope that we start seeing this style of DAO involvement across all blockchains, where it's not just for metaverses, but it'd be for everything. Like, hey, I want to put in a work order to have XYZ contract made on Ethereum. I hope that there one day be a DAO for people to do that, where workers of all shapes and sizes have access to clients and clients have access to them. Because right now, I know when I do meet some clients, their question is always, how do I contact? How do I get a hold of these people? How do I find these people? And when I talk with like small devs and stuff, they're asking the exact same question. How do I find clients? How do I get in contact? Well, this model, it really helps solve that issue. This is what this hopefully will solve in the end.
I love that. I would like to see this be wildly successful and be adopted into all of the other processes we have in life where it could be used. It would be wonderful.
All right. Yes, 100%. So for my closeout, I'm gonna be the marketing guy. Okay. Every Sunday up until August 30th, we are doing a Twitter space at 7 p.m. And is basically coming together and just talking about and exploring out the conversation of what is digital realty in the metaverses and how does that work as far as not having to code and not having to deal with the monetization as far as trading. So every Sunday up until August 30th, we are doing a Twitter Spaces at 7 p.m. August 30th is when we're actually having the webinar event itself. The presentation is like an hour and a half, and then we leave time to be able to ask questions. And this is just about the basic intro stuff. There's like this DAO part of it. The DAO part of it is a little bit more of the advanced side, but what we're doing right now is just the basic intro stuff and getting people to understand the differences between metaverses, how to spot scams in metaverses, things like wallet security, as well as understanding that, again, you don't need to code and you don't need to be a trader. Going forward, we're going to be holding a webinar pretty much every month for the next couple of months. And it's going to be the same thing of every Sunday, or we'll find another day to do it on, where we're doing a live stream, a Twitter space to talk about digital realty in the metaverse. So yeah, that's it.
That's all wonderful. And I will see your stuff and I'll retweet it on the Twitter too. So if anybody hasn't found these two yet by all of my 10,000 tweets, you should. And if you still haven't, I'll be sharing it too. So keep your eyes open on the Twitter. And thank you very much for joining me. This is super exciting and I wish you all the successes.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
And thanks for setting up the stream on no notice as well. That was the thing.
Right. All right. Cool.
All right. We'll see you later.
Adios. All right.